All right, let's get right into it. Off the coast of Japan, there's this stretch of ocean that has a seriously fearsome reputation. It's a place where ships and planes are said to just vanish. You might have heard it called the Pacific's Bermuda Triangle, but its other names are even spookier: the Devil's Sea and the Dragon's Triangle. And those names hint at some much older, much darker legends.
So get this. Those were the last words, the haunting, final message from a Japanese military pilot back in August of 1945. And then, just moments later, silence. The plane, the crew, any hint of an explanation for what he meant, it was all just gone. That one single, bizarre transmission is probably the best place to start when you're trying to unravel one of the world's most stubborn mysteries.
So, how in the world does a patch of ocean get a reputation like that? Well, this isn't a new thing. For centuries, sailors have been telling stories about this part of the Pacific. We're talking tales of disappearances that just defy all logic, stories that hint at something, well, something deeply unnatural going on out there.
The explanations people have come up with are just as wild as the disappearances themselves. I mean, you've got ancient folklore talking about actual sea dragons swallowing ships whole. Then you jump to the modern theories: alien bases on the seafloor, gateways to other dimensions, bizarre magnetic forces that pull ships under. You name it. It's this amazing mix of old-school mythology and modern sci-fi.
But this legend isn't just built on folklore, you know? It's built on a string of very real and, frankly, very chilling events. Things really kicked into high gear after World War II. But the absolute craziest point in the timeline, the one that gives me chills, is the disappearance of the Chaho Maru No. 5 in 1952. Think about this. Japan sends a research vessel with 31 of its top scientists to investigate the mystery, and then it vanishes too. Can you imagine the panic? The ship you sent to find the answers just became the biggest mystery of all.
Now, the story of the Dragon's Triangle really blew up, especially in the West, thanks to two main characters. You had one guy who basically turned the myth into this huge global phenomenon, and another guy who decided his job was to take that very same legend apart, piece by piece.
Okay, so this whole thing really boils down to a clash between these two guys. On one side, you've got Charles Berlitz. He was a paranormal author, and his book from 1989 painted this incredible picture of hundreds of sailors vanishing in mysteriously calm seas, all inside this massive danger zone that the government had supposedly declared. But then, on the other side, you have this investigator, Lawrence Cush, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to check the receipts. He didn't just take the stories at face value. He questioned the numbers, he dug up the old weather reports, and crucially, he wrote a letter straight to the Japanese government.
So, what do you think happened when Cush went straight to the source? This is where the spooky legend slams right into government bureaucracy, and believe me, the story takes a really interesting turn.
This was it. This was the central claim, right? The very foundation of the modern myth. A huge, officially recognized paranormal hotspot. So, was it true?
Nope, not even close. The reality was, well, a lot smaller. The government's reply came back, and it turns out the official danger zone wasn't a massive triangle at all. It was a tiny, restricted area just 10 miles wide. The government's official response basically dismantled the myth piece by piece. First, they said names like Devil's Sea or Dragon's Triangle don't even exist on their official maps. That tiny 10-mile zone, yeah, it was dangerous, but for perfectly normal reasons. Underwater volcanoes and super sharp rocks. And the ships that went missing? They weren't giant warships. They were mostly small fishing boats. But here's the real kicker. Berlitz claimed the seas were calm, but official records showed that on the exact days those boats went missing, major storms were ripping through the area. So, okay, case closed then. It's just a combination of natural hazards, really bad weather, and an author who maybe stretched the truth a little bit. It all sounds like a neat, tidy explanation. But maybe it's not quite that simple. Because even after you account for the storms and the volcanoes and all the logical stuff, there are still these pieces of the puzzle that they just don't fit. There are elements to the story that neither the official explanation nor the skeptical investigator could ever really explain away. Fast forward to 1986, a group of divers are exploring the waters near the Dragon's Triangle, and they stumble upon something that would reignite this entire mystery in the most spectacular way. Something that, to this day, defies an easy explanation.
It's called the Yonaguni Monument, and it is this colossal, terraced structure sitting on the ocean floor. I mean, it looks for all the world like a man-made pyramid with these incredibly sharp angles, flat terraces, and things that look exactly like carved steps. Archaeologists think it could be thousands of years old, from a time when humans absolutely should not have had the technology to build something on this scale. How it was built, and why it's sitting at the bottom of the ocean right next to this legendary mystery zone, well, that's a question that still stumps scientists. And let's not forget where we started all this. Storms, volcanoes, and jagged rocks. None of that explains the pilot's final chilling words. What was he seeing? What kind of natural phenomenon makes a trained military pilot think the very sky is tearing itself apart? That core piece of evidence, it's never, ever been explained away.
And all this weirdness leads some researchers to look for a much bigger picture. What if the Dragon's Triangle isn't just an isolated anomaly? What if it's just one point in a worldwide network of strange and unexplained energy zones? This is where we get into the theory of the vile vortices. It's this idea that got popular back in the 70s. It suggests that there are 12 very specific, evenly spaced points across the globe where the planet's natural electromagnetic energy gets amplified, kind of like a hotspot. And these hotspots could be responsible for all sorts of strange phenomena, from disappearances to UFO sightings.
And just look at the company the Devil Sea keeps on this list. It's located at a point on the globe that's directly opposite the Bermuda Triangle. Other vortices are supposedly right where ancient wonders are, like the pyramids of Giza and Easter Island. The theory suggests that these aren't just random spots of high strangeness, but that they're all interconnected points on some kind of global energetic grid.
So in the end, we're left with a choice. Is the Dragon's Triangle just a collection of tall tales built on bad weather and some very real but very normal natural hazards? Or do those unexplained pieces, the pilot's final words, that impossible underwater monument, do they point to something more? A secret about our own planet that we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of? That's the question that keeps this legend alive.